Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The suitcase zipper screamed like a dying animal in the silence of the penthouse suite, the sound sharp enough to sever the tension hanging in the air. Kalen didn't look back. If he turned around, if he saw the devastation on the face of the man who had ruled his world for the last 6 months, he would crumble. Kalen shoved a final, crumpled shirt into the bag, a shirt that smelled like sandalwood and betrayal, and snapped the lock shut. His hands were trembling, not from the cold of the high-altitude climate control, but from the aftershocks of a revelation that had shattered his reality only 20 minutes ago. You walk out that door. A voice came from the shadows of the bedroom, smooth as velvet wrapped around a jagged stone, and you forfeit everything. The scholarship, the protection, the stabilization of your core. Kalen paused, his hand gripping the handle of his luggage until his knuckles turned white. He turned slowly. Silas Thorne, the heir to the Thorne magical dynasty and the Academy's undisputed king, sat on the edge of the massive bed. He looked unbothered, his posture regal, but his eyes, usually a piercing, icy blue, were dark, swirling with a storm Kalen knew too well. "I'd rather burn out," Kalen spat, his voice cracking, "than be your battery for one more second. To understand the end, you must understand the beginning." The Academy of Arcanum Arts was not a place for the weak, and it certainly wasn't a place for charity cases like Kalen Vance. Kalen was a void touch, a rare, volatile anomaly capable of absorbing magical energy, but incapable of generating it. In the hierarchy of the magical elite, he was a bottom feeder, a scavenger. The only reason he hadn't been expelled or imprisoned for accidental energy theft was the unexpected intervention of Silas Thorne. Silas was the sun around which the Academy orbited. Rich, devastatingly handsome with his silver blonde hair and aristocratic features, and gifted with an overflow of ether, pure, generative magic. He was the natural predator to Kalen's scavenger. When the housing assignments were posted, and Kalen saw his name next to Silas Thorne's in the executive suite, the campus had erupted in rumors. Why would the Prince of Ether room with a void rat? The answer came on the third night. Kalen had been shivering on his mattress, his veins burning with the void hunger, the agonizing withdrawal his body suffered when he hadn't absorbed ambient magic in days. He was curled in a fetal position, sweat soaking through his sheets, when the door to his room opened. Silas stood there, silhouetted by the hall light. He didn't ask if Kalen was okay. He didn't offer a pitying look. "Get up," Silas had commanded. I can't," Kalen gasped, clutching his stomach. Silas sighed, a sound of elegant annoyance. He walked over, grabbed Kalen by the collar of his damp t-shirt, and hauled him up. "My father expects me to maintain top marks. I cannot study with you whimpering like a wounded dog in the next room. Come." He dragged Kalen into the main living area, a space filled with leather books, floating crystals, and the scent of expensive incense. Silas sat in a high-backed velvet armchair and pointed to his lap. "Sit." Kalen blinked, his vision swimming. "What? You are a void." "I am an ether overflow," Silas explained, his tone clinical, as if discussing the weather. "If we touch, the pressure stabilizes. I can focus. You stop dying. It is simple hydraulics." "I'm not sitting on your lap," Kalen protested weakly. "I'm not your pet. You are whatever I need you to be to ensure silence," Silas countered. "Sit. Or bleed out on the carpet. The choice is yours. Desperation is a cruel master." Kalen sat. That was how this studying began. Every evening, from 8 until midnight, Kalen would lower himself onto Silas's thighs. At first, it was rigid, awkward torture. Kalen would hold his breath, trying to hover his weight, terrified of making contact. But the moment their bodies aligned, the relief was narcotic. Silas's magic was cool water on a burn. It flowed from Silas's core into Kalen's, soothing the gnawing hunger of the void. "Relax," Silas would murmur, his breath ghosting against the sensitive skin of Kalen's neck as he turned a page of his grimoire. "You're stiff as a board. It restricts the flow." "It's weird," Kalen would whisper back, his face burning. "It is necessary." Weeks turned into months. The rigidity faded. The sessions became routine. Then, they became addictive. Kalen found himself watching the clock, waiting for 8 p.m. He stopped hovering. He settled in. He let his back rest against Silas's broad chest. He let his head tip back onto Silas's shoulder. The dynamic shifted imperceptibly. Silas's hands, initially kept strictly on the armrests or his book, began to wander. A hand resting on Kalen's hip to steady him. A thumb tracing the line of Kalen's jaw while Silas pondered a complex spell. "Why are you doing this?" Kalen asked one rainy night in November. The thunder rattled the window panes, but Kalen felt safe, wrapped in the fortress of Silas's aura. Silas didn't look up from his text. "Doing what?" "Helping me." "You don't help anyone. You're Silas Thorne. You crush people." Silas closed the book. The room plunged into silence. His arm tightened around Kalen's waist, pulling him flush against him. Kalen could feel the steady, powerful thrum of Silas's heart against his back. "Perhaps," Silas said, his voice dropping an octave, "I have found a curiosity I do not wish to crush." He turned Kalen's face toward him. For the first time, the distance closed. It wasn't a kiss, not yet. It was a transfer of breath, a mingling of ether and void so potent that Kalen whimpered. Silas's eyes were dark, hungry. "You are mine, Kalen," Silas whispered. "My anchor. My balance." Kalen fell. He fell hard. He thought he was the special case. He thought he was the one who had melted the ice prince. They became lovers in the dark, frantic and passionate, their magic crashing together like tidal waves. Kalen convinced himself that the lap-sitting, the touching, the intimacy, it was all born of affection, disguised as necessity. He was wrong. The lie unraveled on a Tuesday. Kalen had come back early from a remedial alchemy class. He walked into the penthouse, eager to surprise Silas. He heard voices from the study, Silas's voice, and the deeper, booming baritone of his father, Lord Thorne, projecting through a communication crystal. Kalen froze behind the door. "The Void Boy is growing too dependent," Lord Thorne's voice crackled. "If he snaps, he could drain you dry, Silas. This experiment is dangerous." "It is calculated," Silas's voice replied, cool and detached. The same voice he used when solving equations. His capacity for absorption has increased by 400%. He is no longer a student, father. He is a reservoir. Kalen's heart stopped. "And when the grand tournament begins?" Lord Thorne asked. "You will need a massive surge of power to defeat the Eastern Heir." "Precisely," Silas said. "I have been feeding him high-density ether for months. His core is stretched to the limit. When the tournament starts, I will reverse the flow. I will drain him. He will act as an external battery pack. It will likely burn out his mind, leaving him a husk, but I will win." "A husk?" Kalen staggered back, his bag dropping to the floor with a thud. Inside the room, the silence was instant. The door swung open. Silas stood there, the communication crystal glowing behind him. For a second, there was panic in his eyes, genuine, raw panic, before the mask slammed back down. "Kalen, a battery," Kalen whispered, tears hot and stinging in his eyes. "That's all I was. All the nights. The touching? You were just fattening the pig for slaughter." "It's not that simple." Silas stepped forward, reaching out. "The theory required." "Don't you dare talk to me about theory." Kalen screamed, the void inside him lashing out, cracking a vase on the mantel. "You made me love you. You made me need you. Just so you could use me to win a trophy. I needed to ensure victory for the house." Silas shouted back, his composure cracking. "At first. Yes, at first, that was the plan. But Kalen, listen." "No." Kalen turned on his heel. "I'm done." Which brought them to the suitcase. The zipper. The exit. Kalen walked out of the penthouse, ignoring Silas's warnings. He ignored the way his body screamed in protest, the immediate coldness that settled into his bones without Silas's warmth. He took a room in the dregs of the city, a motel in the district of Ash, where magic went to die. For 3 weeks, Kalen rotted. The withdrawal was worse than before. Having tasted the purest ether, the ambient magic of the slums tasted like sewage. He grew thin, pale. He couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt the ghost of Silas's hands on his hips, heard the deceptive rhythm of his heartbeat. He tried to hate Silas. He wanted to hate him. But the hatred was a thin veneer over a gaping wound of longing. On the 22nd day, The trouble found him. Kalen was walking back from a late-night shift at a shadowed bodega, the only place that would hire a void, when three men cornered him in an alley. They weren't thieves. They were siphons, illegal magic hunters who could smell a charged core a mile away. "Look at this," the leader sneered, a man with a face like scarred leather. "He's glowing. Full of high-grade thorn ether. We hit the jackpot, boys." Kalen backed up, hitting the damp brick wall. He tried to summon the void to defend himself, but he was weak, starving. "Stay back. We're going to drink you dry, pretty boy," the siphon laughed, pulling a jagged obsidian dagger. They lunged. Kalen squeezed his eyes shut, raising his arms, waiting for the pain. Boom. A shockwave of blinding white light detonated in the alley. The pavement cracked. The siphons were thrown back as if hit by a freight train, slamming into the dumpsters with bone-crunching force. The air pressure dropped. The smell of ozone and sandalwood filled the alley. Kalen opened his eyes. Silas stood before him. He wasn't the pristine prince of the academy anymore. His suit was disheveled, his tie missing, his silver hair wild. He was breathing hard, his hands glowing with lethal, crackling energy. "Touch him," Silas snarled, his voice a guttural growl that vibrated in Kalen's chest, "and I will erase your bloodlines from history." The siphons didn't wait to test the threat. They scrambled, limping and bleeding, into the dark. Silas turned slowly. He looked terrible. There were dark circles under his eyes, his skin pallid. It wasn't just Kalen who was suffering from the separation. "You look like hell," Silas whispered, the arrogance gone, replaced by a raw, terrifying vulnerability. "You lied to me," Kalen said, sliding down the wall until he hit the ground. His legs wouldn't hold him. "You were going to kill me." Silas dropped to his knees in the filth of the alley. He didn't care about his bespoke trousers. He reached out, his hands hovering over Kalen's face. "The plan changed," Silas said, his voice breaking. "It changed months ago. Why do you think I never initiated the drain? Why do you think I fought my father every night after you fell asleep? You said." "I said what I had to say to keep him off my back," Silas confessed. "He wanted results. I gave him reports. False reports. I told him you were a battery because if I told him the truth, that I was in love with a void, that I was giving you my power with no intention of taking it back, he would have had you assassinated." Kalen stared at him. The plot hole in his mind, why a genius would use such a clumsy lie, suddenly filled. Silas wasn't arrogant. He was desperate. He was playing a double game against his own family to protect the very person he was supposed to be using. You were protecting me." "I was trying," Silas choked out. "And I failed. Because I was too cowardly to tell you the truth. I thought I could control it. I thought I could keep you on my lap, keep you safe in my room, and hide you from the world." Silas grabbed Kalen's hands. The contact was electric. A jolt of pure life rushed into Kalen, making him gasp. "I am starving, Kalen," Silas admitted, pressing Kalen's knuckles against his forehead. "Not for magic. I have plenty of that. I am starving for you." The silence in that room. It is deafening. I cannot study. I cannot sleep. I cannot breathe. "The tournament?" Kalen asked weakly. "To hell with the tournament. Let them strip my title. Let them disown me." Silas looked up, his eyes burning with intensity. "Come back. Not as a student. Not as a battery. As my partner. If we go back on your terms. You sit where you want. You take what you need." Kalen looked at the man who had been his enemy, his roommate, his tormentor, and his savior. He saw the truth in the exhaustion etched into Silas's face. The lie had fueled his exit, but this raw, undeniable magnetic pull was the love that would drag him back. Kalen let out a shaky breath and leaned forward, resting his forehead against Silas's. "If I come back," Kalen whispered, "we're changing the study arrangement." "Anything," Silas breathed. "No more books," Kalen murmured, closing the distance to press his lips against Silas's. "Just you and me." The kiss tasted of rain, desperation, and a promise that would burn down the world before it was broken again. And that is how the void swallowed the sun, not to extinguish it, but to hold it forever. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Silas break his own kingdom for Kalen, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a lover who lied to save your life? Or is a lie always a deal breaker? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt. Masterpiece, best quality, high-res. 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic. Digital art. 2 men. BL. Yaoi. Man 1. Silas, silver blonde hair, disheveled expensive suit, kneeling in a dark rainy alley. Expression of desperate love, glowing hands, sharp aristocratic features. Man 2. Kalen, dark hair, wearing worn-out streetwear, sitting against a brick wall, looking exhausted but relieved, gazing up at Man 1. Dramatic lighting from a street lamp, rain puddles reflecting neon. Signs, magical sparks in the air, emotional atmosphere, cinematic composition, intricate details, intense eye contact.